New York has a long and proud history as an active contributor to the American story of space exploration. And the next chapter of that exploration is being written now. So let's explore a little bit more of this story. Some of the major highlights, one of the most important facts that many people might not be aware of is that the Apollo Lunar Landers were built on Long Island. When many people think of space, they might think of Florida, Texas, or California. But this critical part of the American story of space exploration was built right here in New York, in Bethpage. More than 30 New Yorkers have gone into space, spending a combined 3 years, 9 months, and 10 days off of the Earth, including a number of important firsts that we'll explore in a little bit. NASA has a facility at Columbia University in New York City where they conduct an extensive amount of climate and atmospheric research. And overall, NASA impacts generate over $530 million in yearly economic impact and support more than 2,300 jobs. Universities, including Cornell and the University of Rochester, have played major roles in NASA missions to Mars and generational telescopes like Hubble and Webb. The early roots of the New York story in space begin with the early roots of the aviation story that began with dreams of flying across the Atlantic. Long Island is a natural place with which to conduct transatlantic flights. The first powered flights occurred in New York in 1896, kicking off decades as a major aviation powerhouse. This era continued through the 1930s and World War II, laying the foundation for New York to become a major player in World War II Air Force development. And then following that, leading into the Apollo era. After World War II, as NASA prepared to send probes and eventually humans into space and eventually to the moon, the now significant aviation and aerospace industry on Long Island became a natural partner to this development, which eventually led to 6 Grumman lunar landers flying and landing on the moon, where they remain today. So this critical part of the American space story has roots in New York. We feel this is a fact that should be celebrated more loudly across New York, especially as with recent developments, Artemis has shown America is preparing to return to the moon again. Pictured below is a lunar lander, an unflown, fully complete lunar lander, permanently on loan from the Smithsonian Museum to the Cradle of Aviation Museum in Garden City, Long Island. Rochester in upstate New York is a key hub for innovation in optics. The University of Rochester has major connections to some of the most impactful telescopes projects in the world. The list includes Hubble, James Webb, Sophia, Spitzer, Herschel, and near-Earth object surveillance. Cornell University is a leader in planetary exploration. Cornell University has played a major role in NASA planetary exploration missions going back decades, including the historic Spirit and Opportunity rovers to Mars. Current NASA missions that Cornell has a research presence on include the Mars Perseverance rover, James Webb, the Mars InSight lander, the Europa Clipper, the Juno mission to Jupiter, and the Dragonfly mission to Titan. Cornell is literally New York's connection to the solar system. Every day, researchers, engineers, students at Cornell wake up and think about how to better explore some of the most remote and fascinating corners of our solar system. New Yorkers have been part of the human exploration of space since the beginning. New Yorkers began flying with some of the earliest Mercury and Gemini missions in the 50s and 60s, and have continued flying up until this day, with some slated to go on missions in the near future. 30 New Yorkers have been to space, spending a collective 3 years, 9 months, 10 days, and 31 minutes away from the Earth. Major historic firsts of New Yorkers in space include the first mother in space, Anna Lee Fisher, pictured here from Queens. First private citizen in space, Dennis Tito, also from Queens. First female shuttle commander, Eileen Collins from Elmira. First live tweet sent from space, Nicole Scott from Albany. And the first pilot of a crewed private spacecraft, Doug Hurley from Endicott near Binghamton. NASA footprints in New York. NASA conducts significant climate and atmospheric research at its Goddard Institute for Space Studies, located at Columbia University in Manhattan. NASA economic impacts totaled over $530 million in 2021 and supported over 2,300 jobs. Empire Space tracks companies working with NASA in fields as diverse as architecture, propulsion, optics, and launch support. Picture below, you see a table of these 2021 NASA impacts ranked by employment and economic output. You can see here, New York is not as large as the major states, but we are 15th, so there is a foundation here to work with moving into the future. Finance sector is a space powerhouse in New York. Obviously, we're a global finance hub. This includes the national space ecosystem, including across all types of financial vehicles. New York is a key source of funds for the growing U.S. space economy. Specifically, New York is number 2 in the U.S. with 18% of U.S. space investors. Number 1 for private equity space financing. Number 2 for venture capital. Number 2 for angel investing. Data courtesy of Bryce Tech. Empire Space tracks 44 sources with high space involvement, with over $9 trillion in assets under management. When expanded to moderate space involvement, this pool grows to 118 sources, just demonstrating how broad and diverse the pool of space finance is in New York. While concentrated strongly in New York City, this activity is present across the state. However, there are significant obstacles that remain to growth in the space ecosystem here in New York. Empire Space recently conducted an extensive analysis of 17 major space states, including Florida, Texas, and California, revealing several areas where New York lagged peers in building a mature, healthy space ecosystem. Major obstacles include an atrophying industrial sector. The aerospace network on Long Island has struggled for years as major players moved to the south and west. The industry lost clout in Albany and across the state. This needs to be remedied moving forward. There's lack of extensive cross-sector and cross-regional collaborations among space sector stakeholders. Activity tends to be concentrated within a particular region or a particular field. We need to encourage more collaborations within different regions of states, between academic, industrial, government, and non-governmental sectors, and also between different regions of the state, tapping various pools of resource expertise to build a more successful and vibrant whole. There's also a lack of interest and engagement from state and local government and political leaders. This needs to be rectified moving forward for there to be any substantive growth, space and aerospace sector here in New York. So the stage is set for a new era for space in New York. New York has a proud legacy in the American space story and possesses key foundational pieces necessary for significant growth in the space ecosystem. Major sources of strength can be found across the state, major universities with deep NASA ties, a history of industrial leadership waiting to be reclaimed, proximity to existing sources of space finance, active civic groups like planetariums and astronomy clubs in every region of the state. The tools and the pieces for a vibrant space ecosystem, a contributing hub to the 21st century American space economy, are there for New York. All the tools are there to move from 15th to 10th and potentially higher. There are gaps that need to be addressed. There are holes, particularly on the industrial side, on the networking side, on the financing side. There are still those age-old problems in New York of talent, students leaving the state for pastures elsewhere. Recent developments put that story to rest. $100 billion for semiconductor development in Syracuse changes the narrative of what is possible for an industrial age in New York. So we are very excited about what can be done in space, in aerospace, in New York moving forward. So join us. Everyone has a part to play in this next chapter of New York's story in space, and everyone will feel the impacts of major developments coming from growth in the space economy. Our Get Involved page links you up with NASA ambassadors conducting space programs in communities across the state, as well as social media accounts for every entry in our census. You can find that at empirespace.org/get-involved. Empirespace.org is our homepage. Visit us there anytime. We encourage you to share this story with your friends, neighbors, explore our census to learn more about the current New York space ecosystem. Think about what part you want New York to play in the 21st century space age. Follow us on Twitter at EmpireSpaceNY. Thank you. Empire Space offers a number of resources for those looking to learn more about New York's history in the American story of space exploration, how it might be relevant to them, their lives, and their communities, and how they can get more involved moving forward. Best place to start is on our site, empirespace.org/FAQ. Up here along our top bar, you can also find it under the tab FAQ. This just has a number of frequently asked questions about space in New York and also some helpful hits that we've gathered. You have a number of prominent questions here with drop downs. Click on them, the answer pops up. So questions: how many New Yorkers work in the space sector? Answer: combined over 62,000. Other questions: why is investing in space important? So basics like that. And then along the left side here, we just have a number of fun facts, FYIs. Did you know that Long Island was once referred to as the cradle of aviation? Did you know that the Apollo Lunar Landers were built on Long Island? Things of that nature. So that's what the FAQ page is about. If you're new, if you're looking to learn more, stop by here and explore. Another place to come, you can come over here to our data page. This is our census map here. You'll notice up here in the top right is New Yorkers in space. Click on this. Also, if you come up here to the data tab and hover, scroll down, New Yorkers in space. This is a list of every person who was born in New York who has been to space. We provide the full list here in order. Click here. It brings you right to their Wikipedia page with all the relevant information. We have their birthplace, the mission they flew on, the amount of time that they spent in space, any important notes. You see a number of firsts here: first mother in space, first Coast Guard aviator, first female shuttle commander, the first and the third private citizen in space were both from New York, first Jewish astronaut, first Air Force Academy graduate. So a number of important firsts connected by New York. You also see the region that they're from. They're from all over the state. So ever since space travel became a possibility, ever since humans started traveling beyond the Earth into the heavens, New Yorkers have been a part of that journey. Encourage you to come, to learn more, to explore their story. We hope it inspires you. Final place we would like to tour is the Get Involved page here. Click here. This gives you some helpful resources if you want to get more active, get more involved, see what's going on in your community. We have social media contacts here. This is a list of every institution in our census with their Twitter or Facebook profile, so you can find anyone that interests you, connect with them via social media. We have a list of NASA Solar System ambassadors. These are NASA-affiliated individuals conducting space programming in communities across the state. We have a full list here, when they joined, where they're located, and their contact page. I encourage you to check that out. You also have a link to our calendar, various calendars of various events, both in New York and globally related to space and astronomy, as well as links to our Twitter page. Feel free to reach out to us there. So these are a number of ways for people to get involved, to learn more about the story of New York in space and how they can make it a part of their story moving forward. So we thank you for joining us. As always, thank you for watching. To learn more, visit our homepage, empirespace.org. Email info@empirespace.org to learn more. Follow us at EmpireSpaceNY on Twitter. Have a pleasant day. Be safe.